I don't usually pick up hitchhikers. I know it's dangerous, and my mom would kill me if she found out. But when I saw her standing there on the side of the empty highway, looking cold and scared in the dark, I felt bad and decided to stop. She couldn't have been more than 16 or 17, skinny, with tangled blonde hair falling in her face. "Thank you so much," she said in this little voice as she climbed into the passenger seat and rubbed her hands together for warmth. "No problem," I said. "Where are you headed?" "Just the next town over. You can drop me at the bus station." I nodded and continued driving down the dark, winding road. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see her hunkered down in her oversized hoodie. She seemed nervous, her eyes flitting around, taking in the details of my car. We drove in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. "You must be Melissa. You're 23 and you live on Oak Street in a little blue house with white trim and a big tree in the front yard. You have a black lab named Shadow that you adopted from the animal shelter 2 years ago. You work part-time as a receptionist at the doctor's office, and you're taking night classes at the community college so you can become a nurse someday." I stared at her, mouth agape. How could she possibly know all that stuff about me? I had never seen this girl before in my life. Who are you?" I stammered. "How do you know all that?" She turned and looked at me and smiled. But it wasn't a warm, friendly smile. It was cold and knowing. "I know lots of things about you, Melissa. Like how you spend Tuesday and Thursday evenings at home alone working on your online biology course. You keep the front windows open to let in the fresh air while you study. It's so easy to see in from the front yard, isn't it?" A cold feeling was spreading through my body. She knew where I lived, my routine, my dog's name. I felt the hairs rising on the back of my neck. "Your boyfriend Marcus takes that big pit bull of his on walks every night at 10, the girl continued. "You stay up waiting for him to come over after since you gave him the spare key. He usually shows up around 11 and lets himself in." I had just given Marcus that key last week. How could she possibly know about that? No one else knew he had a key to my place. I gripped the steering wheel hard, focusing on the dark road ahead. "How do you know all this? Are you following me? Did Marcus tell you?" My heart was starting to pound. The girl chuckled. "I have lots of ways of finding out things, Melissa. Your schedule, where you live, the places you go, it was easy." We were getting close to town now, but I was too freaked out to let this girl out at the bus station. I needed answers. "Who are you?" I asked again, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why are you telling me all this stuff about my life?" "So you realize that I could hurt you if I wanted to," she said matter-of-factly. "So easy to slip inside your cozy little house while you're away at class. So easy to follow you when you run at night with your earbuds in, lost in your own little world." I felt like I was going to vomit as the implications of her words sunk in. This strange girl had been stalking me, spying on me, and knew my most vulnerable moments. She knew all about my routine, my habits when I came and went, and she was clearly threatening me. My mind was racing, thinking of what to do next. I could pull into a gas station, a public place. Maybe I should call the police. But I needed to keep her talking and find out why she was doing this first. "Please, just tell me what you want from me," I said shakily. She smiled again and cocked her head. "It's simple. I want you to kill someone for me, Melissa." I gasped in shock, the car swerving slightly before I steadied it. "What? No, why? Why would you ask me to do that?" "Because if you don't, I might just have to hurt that pretty little doggy of yours." "What's his name again? Shadow?" I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Don't you dare threaten my dog. I'm not killing anyone for you. I'm taking you to the police." I could see the lights of the gas station just ahead now. Once there, I could get help. The girl sighed. "It's too bad, Melissa. You seem nice. But now I'm going to have to punish you for disobeying me." She reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled something out. I couldn't see what it was in the dark cab of the truck. "What are you?" was all I managed to get out before she struck. A blinding pain erupted in the side of my neck and I shrieked. Warm blood gushed down my collarbone. The car swerved madly as I clutched my neck, trying to stop the bleeding. The girl had sliced my neck with a knife. "You psycho," I screamed. "I'm bleeding." The girl just stared calmly out of the window. "You shouldn't have defied me, Melissa. Now you've made me angry. I tried asking nicely." I was crying and shaking uncontrollably, one hand gripping the steering wheel while the other fruitlessly tried to stop the terrifying flow of blood from my neck. Why are you doing this? I sobbed. She turned to me with those empty, evil eyes. You'll be dead soon, Melissa, and don't worry, I'll take good care of Shadow after you're gone. I felt woozy and sick. The girl was right. At the rate I was losing blood, I'd pass out at any moment. As we closed in on the brightly lit gas station, I used my last bit of strength to pull into the parking lot. Help! I managed to gasp as I collapsed out of the car onto the asphalt, blood still gushing. My vision faded as I saw figures running towards me from the store. Everything went black, but just before I lost consciousness, I heard the girl's cold, whispery voice from somewhere nearby. See you soon, Melissa. It was a cold, rainy night when I saw her standing on the side of the desolate country road. As I approached, the young girl stuck out her thumb half-heartedly, then seemed surprised when I actually slowed down and pulled over. She rushed up to the passenger side door and I leaned over to push it open. Need a ride? I asked. Oh my God, yes please, she said breathlessly as she climbed in and slammed the door. Thank you so much. I nodded and continued driving down the wet, winding road. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see the girl shaking, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked young, maybe 19 or 20, with tangled blonde hair hanging in her face. Her clothes were dirty and torn in places. Rough night? I asked gently. She let out a shaky laugh. You could say that. Just had to get out of a bad situation. You're like my guardian angel right now, I swear. I smiled, glad I could help. We drove in silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. Sorry, I'm Jess, by the way, she said timidly. Nice to meet you, Jess. I'm Taylor, I replied. She nodded, falling quiet again. She was still trembling, her eyes darting around nervously. I wondered if she was in some kind of trouble. An abusive relationship, maybe. You can relax, I said reassuringly. I know you don't know me, but I promise you're safe. I'll take you wherever you need to go. Jess gave me a weak smile. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry if I seem freaked out. It's just been a really scary night. I hesitated before asking, do you want to talk about it? She was quiet for a minute, looking down and picking at her chipped nail polish. It's my boyfriend, she said at last. She glanced over at me. Well, ex-boyfriend now. He's bad news. The dangerous, violent type. I felt anger well up, hating that she was mixed up with someone abusive. I'm so sorry, I told her. No one deserves that. Jess shrugged, a few tears rolling down her cheeks. I was stupid not to leave sooner, but he was just so terrifying. She took a shaky breath. Anyway, we got in this huge fight tonight. He came at me with a knife, cut up my clothes and backpack, and tried to slash me. I managed to escape out a window while he was raging through the apartment. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of monster would attack an innocent young girl like that? I was glad Jess had gotten away. That's awful, I said gently. I'm so glad you made it out of there, and you're very brave for leaving. Jess gave me a small, sad smile. I just knew I had to get away at any cost. Who knows what he might have done? She trailed off, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I hesitated, then reached over and gave her hand a comforting squeeze. The important thing is you made it out, and you won't have to go back there again. Yeah, you're right, she said, taking a shaky breath. She opened the clasp of her muddy backpack. He cut this to shreds, but luckily didn't destroy anything valuable in it. As she rummaged in the bag, something metal glinted inside. Curious, I tried to get a better look, and felt my blood instantly run cold. It couldn't be. Surely my eyes were playing tricks on me. But deep down I knew what I'd seen, the unmistakable outline of a large hunting knife, tucked away in Jess's backpack. I tried to stay calm and think rationally. Maybe there was some logical reason she had a weapon. She had just escaped from an abusive psycho after all. But my unease only grew when I glanced over again and noticed the dark red stains on her sleeves I'd missed earlier. In the glow of the dashboard lights, they looked horribly like blood. I felt adrenaline coursing through me now. What the hell was going on here? Who was this girl really? Every instinct told me I needed to get Jess out of my car immediately, but I fought the urge to pull over. If she realized I was suspicious, there was no telling how she might react. So I kept driving, my pulse racing, pretending everything was normal. Jess seemed oblivious, staring vacantly out the window like she was lost in thought. I racked my brain trying to figure out what to do next. Up ahead, I spotted a brightly lit gas station. Yes, I could stop there under the pretense of filling up, then ask an attendant to call the cops. Jess would have no choice but to exit the car. I slowed down and put on my signal to pull into the station. As we turned off the road, Jess glanced over. "You're running low on gas?" she asked. "Yeah, just need to fill up real quick," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. As we approached the pumps, I saw a police cruiser parked in front. An officer was inside talking to the bored-looking cashier. Perfect. I could get help immediately. "Actually, I just remembered I only have cash and we'll need to go inside," I told Jess, parking at the farthest pump from the entrance. "I'll be right back." Before she could reply, I leaped out into the rain and sprinted for the doors. I burst inside, water dripping everywhere. The cop and cashier looked up in surprise. "Please, I need help," I gasped breathlessly. "There's a dangerous girl out there in my car." I frantically explained the situation and my suspicions about Jess. The cashier called for backup while the officer followed me cautiously back outside. My heart dropped when I saw the passenger door hanging open. Jess was gone. "No! She was right there!" I cried. I spun around desperately, scanning the dark parking lot. Nothing. The cop questioned me thoroughly but had no choice but to eventually let me go. No sign of Jess was found. I drove home in a state of shock, hands still shaking. As much as I wanted to forget the whole bizarre encounter, one question kept nagging at me. Where had Jess gone? And whose blood had really been on her clothes? Somehow I knew this wasn't over. That girl had seen me, spoken to me. She was out there somewhere. And though I didn't want to admit it to myself, in my gut I knew she would be back one day. For me. The lonely highway stretched on for miles in either direction, not a car in sight. As the sun sank below the trees and shadows stretched over the road, I spotted a figure in the distance trudging along the shoulder. Given the isolation of this area, stranded motorists were not uncommon, and normally I would have zipped right past without hesitation. But something about the way this man plodded along in the growing darkness gave me pause. The guy I saw standing there looked harmless enough in jeans and a flannel shirt, holding up a hand as I approached. I debate for a second, then figure there's no harm in giving someone a lift. As I pull over, he runs up and opens the passenger door. "Hey man, thanks so much for stopping," he says. "I really appreciate it." "No problem," I reply. "Hop in." He gets settled in the seat, placing a beat-up backpack at his feet. I pull back onto the quiet two-lane highway, glancing over at my passenger. That's when it hits me. I've seen his face before, recently too, on the news. My blood instantly runs cold. He's the notorious serial killer who just escaped from prison 2 states over. His name is Ted Griffin, and they've been warning he could be anywhere by now. Griffin murdered at least 10 people that they know of, all drifters and hitchhikers he picked up. His victims were found strangled and dumped on the side of remote highways just like this one. I gripped the steering wheel hard, trying to stay calm. I'm alone on an empty road with a vicious killer. I consider pulling over, but what if that sets him off? I need to get to a public place first. "So where are you headed?" I ask, hoping my voice doesn't reveal my fear. "Next town over is fine. I need to catch a bus heading north." His voice is mild with no hint of menace, but all I can picture is those chilling photos of his victims. We drive in tense silence for a few minutes. I keep scanning the road for any sign of life, praying for a busy gas station or even just some traffic, but there's nothing. Just dark woods lining the road. I'm startled when Griffin speaks again. "You recognized me, didn't you?" I hesitate. Maybe I can bluff my way through this. "What do you mean?" He chuckles coldly. "I saw it on your face when I got in. You know who I am." I feel my heartbeat speeding up. Denying it clearly won't work. "Listen," I say shakily. "I don't want any trouble, okay? I'm just trying to give you a ride." "And I appreciate that," he replies. "Contrary to what they say about me, I don't hurt those who help me out." Is he trying to reassure me or threaten me? I can't tell. I'm gripping the wheel so tightly now my knuckles must be white. Think. I have to keep him calm until we reach a public place. "Well, I'm glad I could help then," I say, managing a strained smile. Griffin nods, seemingly satisfied. Most people take one look at me and speed away, but not you. You were kind enough to stop, so don't worry, you're safe with me. I almost laugh at the absurdity of a serial killer telling me I'm safe with him. But instead, I just say, good to know. We're getting closer to town now. I start watching desperately for any businesses, even just a house close to the road. But there's nothing but woods as far as I can see. It's the middle of the night, I realize with despair. Nowhere is open. You seem nervous, Griffin says casually. You don't need to be. Like I said, I only hurt those who don't help me out. And you've been very helpful, taking me all this way. I appreciate it. No problem, I repeated faintly. We pass a sign announcing the next town is still 15 miles away. How am I going to make it that long? Think. I need to get out of this car before we reach an isolated town where he can easily overpower me. Abandoned houses and deserted parking lots flash through my mind. Perfect places for him to act without witnesses. What if I fake car trouble? Pull over and pretend we have engine issues? At least it would get us out of the confined space. I'm about to put my plan into action when I notice Griffin fiddling with something in his lap. My stomach drops when I see the silver glint of a knife. That's quite a weapon you got there, I say before I can stop myself. Just a little insurance, he replies calmly, in case someone gets any bad ideas about turning me in. As long as they don't, no reason for me to use it. He pauses, regarding me with those empty, soulless eyes. But you seem like a good guy. I don't think you'll give me any trouble, will you? I swallow hard. No trouble at all. We pass a sign for a 24-hour gas station at the next exit, just 10 miles away now. I allow myself a small spark of hope. Maybe I can make it there, get inside around people and ask for help. Griffin is still casually turning the knife over in his hands. You know what I hate most? He asks suddenly. I shake my head warily. Liars. His voice takes on a harder edge. People who seem nice at first but then turn on you. I feel like I'm going to vomit. He's toying with me now, letting me know any wrong move will end in that knife slashing my throat. Stay calm, I tell myself. Just a few more miles to the exit. Engage him in conversation so he doesn't notice you're getting ready to pull into the gas station. Well, I prefer honesty too, I say with forced nonchalance. So much easier to deal with people when you're both up front, right? Griffin nods. Exactly. Like you and me. No bullshit here. Just one guy doing a favor for another. And both of us knowing I won't hesitate to use this if I have to. He hefts the knife lightly and smiles. I clench my jaw, focusing on the road ahead through a blur of fear. The exit for the gas station is just ahead. I slow down and put on my right blinker like I'm pulling off just to use the restroom. At the same time, I slide my right hand down my leg toward my ankle. No need for that, Griffin says sharply. I freeze as the cold blade presses against my neck. Of course he noticed. He's been stringing me along this whole time. Please, I whisper through a tight throat. I'm just pulling off to get gas real quick. His laugh sends chills down my spine. Nice try, but you and I both know that's bullshit. The knife digs in harder and I gasp, warm blood trickling down my neck. We're at the exit now, the brightly lit gas station tantalizingly close. I was hoping you'd be honest, Griffin says coldly, but it seems you're just like all the others. No, please, I beg desperately. At that moment, I made a split-second decision. I slammed on the brakes with all my strength seconds before we would have pulled into the station. Griffin lurches forward, the knife dragging across my neck, but not deeply. As he's thrown off balance, I pull out my own pocket knife and slash blindly towards him. He roars in pain and rage as my knife catches his arm, drawing blood. I throw open the car door and make a break for the station entrance, screaming for help. My neck is bleeding, but the cut isn't fatal. Gasping and sobbing, I burst through the doors, yelling for someone to call the police. The stunned clerk grabs the phone while customers stare in shock at my bleeding neck. Through the windows, I see Griffin climb from the car and take off running into the night. In minutes, the police arrive, and an ambulance whisks me to the hospital. I'm treated for the neck laceration and mild blood loss, but within a few hours I'm released, shaken yet overwhelmingly grateful to be alive. Griffin is not found, having disappeared into the darkness, but I provide the police with a full account of my encounter with the escaped serial killer. At least now they have confirmation of which direction he was heading. As I finally arrive home, I feel a profound sense of relief. Against all odds, I survived a ride with a notorious murderer by remaining calm and acting decisively when I had the chance.